This week on Motor Week, Ian Royle marks the changes on Ford's new Fiesta at its launch. Ken Gibson squeezes himself into the smallest of city cars from France. And Ginny Buckley looks at the Nissan Almera. But first, Richard Hammond takes a spin in BMW's M Coupe A.
Like the dodo, the woolly mammoth and the friendly bank manager, the sports coupe was seemingly extinct, lost forever with old favourites like the Jaguar E-Type and the Scimitar GTi. And then we, the car-buying public, regained an interest in buying quirky and thirsty but damnably attractive cars, and the sports coupe was reborn. And BMW are right in there with this, the M Coupe. Now, usually manufacturers develop a roadster from their hard-topped equivalent, a bit like taking the top off a boiled egg, really. But not with the M Coupe. BMW did it the other way around. In fact, a group of super keen BMW mechanics stayed late and worked after hours to turn an early Z3 prototype into the coupe's lines. Just because it's the work of the class swats, though, doesn't mean it's all square. Oh no, not at all. Before its recent facelift, the Z3 had been accused of being a bit too soft, particularly around the rear, even a bit girly. But certainly not the case with the coupe. The blistered rear arches and big chromed exhaust are pure aggression. Subtle, it ain't. Outrageous, it is. And the swats certainly did let their hair down and show us their wilder side when it came to under the bonnet, where you'll find one of the world's finest engines. It's a straight six. It was first seen in BMW's M3 and in the M Roadster. Develops about 321 brake horsepower, which is a lot. It's the same, in fact, as the M3, but with less weight. The M Coupe has the advantage. You really do climb down into these leather-lined sports seats where you'll find there is electric adjustment fore and aft and for the height, and manual adjustment for the backrest. Now, smaller drivers will have no difficulty at all in finding a nice, comfortable driving position, but those over 6 foot might find it's a bit of a challenge in here in the headroom department. As you'd expect from BMW, the quality of the interior is right up there with the best. Chrome surrounds the gear lever and the dials. You'll find air conditioning and a radio cassette player come as standard. There are those who might say that in a £41,000 car they'd expect to find a compact disc player as standard as well, but I say that's rather missing the point. Let's not get too caught up on all the little bells and whistles here. Because this car is all about the potency of that straight six engine. Unusually for a car manufacturer, BMW make quite a conservative claim for the 0 to 60 time of about 5.7 seconds, whereas in the dry, times of under 5 seconds have been recorded. And if the Autobahn is long enough and your nerves are strong enough, you'll hit 155 miles an hour before the rev limiter cuts in to spoil your fun. Boo! It's the in-gear times that put this car into context. In top gear, 50 to 70 miles an hour takes just 6 seconds. A Lotus Esprit GT3 takes 8.3, and even BMW's own mighty M3 7.9 when completing the same test. All of the controls are precise and fingertip light, and there's plenty of feedback through that enormous steering wheel as you stare ahead down the very long bonnet. And like a thin sheet on an old mattress, you feel every single bump, as you should in a proper sports car. Also, as you should in a proper sports car, it's got incredible brakes. From 60 miles an hour to a standstill comes in about 2.8 seconds, which is extremely impressive. Having said that, there perhaps isn't as much feel through the brakes as there could be. Let's get back to that eggshell business. Think about the difference it makes to the rigidity of the structure when you have the top on or off, and you'll understand why the coupe will outhandle the Roadster. In the dry, those huge Michelin pilots offer enormous amounts of grip. In the wet, however, you do need to be a little more gentle with the right foot. The surface area of rubber on those tyres, combined with 321 brake horsepower, can lead to some rather tail-happy slides. In an age where BMWs have been accused of losing their soul, the M Coupe A points to a rawer type of BMW that we know and love, but also a car that seems almost to have been forgotten. BMW have made themselves a muscle car. In these politically correct times, when even Ferrari and Porsche have started making cars which are well behaved and easy to drive, the M Coupe A harks back to another age, when sports cars would punish the foolish. BMW say that the M Coupe A is a rival for the Porsche 911, but on paper that would seem unlikely. The Porsche is £25,000 more expensive and these days more refined, giving swifter, though arguably less involving and exciting performance. However, with only 200 of these due to be imported into the UK every year, the M Coupe A may well offer a more exclusive proposition. Maybe the truth is that the direct competition for this car hasn't been made for about 20 years, and the M Coupe A is practically in a class of its own, appealing perhaps to buyers of the old-school 911s who like their performance fast and scary.
Faced with fierce competition from its small car rivals, Ford have decided it's time to freshen up the Fiesta and give it, well, a slightly new look for the Millennium, but without taking away the basic characteristics of the car. Now, with the new kids on the block, the likes of the Toyota Yaris, the Fiat Punto, which is already outselling the Fiesta in parts of Europe, and the Renault Clio, Ford have given the Fiesta its house style. Yes, it gets new edge design styling. If you're mystified as to why the new Fiesta didn't get the 1.7 engine instead of the 1.6 engine, well, it's because Ford didn't want the Fiesta treading on the toes of the Puma. You see, the 1.4 Puma has 88 brake horsepower, the 1.7 125, and this new S engine kind of fits nicely in the middle with 103 brake horsepower. It does 0 to 60 in just over 10 seconds and a top speed of 113 miles an hour. Revisions inside the Fiesta are quite frankly very minor. In fact, looking at this now, you can see very little difference from the outgoing model. But it does look a bit better, and it's very well put together and very well built with a look of the Puma inside, but just doesn't have the je ne sais quoi and the style of the Renault Clio interior. There's also the option of head and chest side airbags, which is apparently a first for a car of this size. One thing it doesn't have, which is very annoying, is a switch inside the car to open the boot. You always have to use the key, and that really gets on your nerves. At the front end of the car, well, as you can see, it's been given Ford's new edge design headlights. It gets a new bonnet, new wings and new bumpers. It's almost like the Fiesta's gone into a hairdresser's and asked for a new edge design perm, and it's gone slightly wrong. And at the back, well, again, very little has changed. It gets this cheap fuel flap, which looks like it's going to fall off, an extra spoiler, and it seems to have grown some bulby bits, which look like a pair of breasts at some angles. I thought new edge design was all about sharp, angly points. That certainly isn't. The new Fiesta lineup now consists of the 1.25 and 1.4 Zetec engines, plus the base 1.3 Endura E and 1.8 litre diesel. You can choose from 5 trim levels: Encore, Finesse, Zetec, LX and Gear, plus the new S. Amazingly, prices have slightly increased, with the base 1.3 Encore at £7,750, rising to the 1.4 Gear at £11,850. The Zetec S price has not been announced, but expected to be somewhere around £12,500. Now, if you're in the market for a small car, well, there are lots to choose from. They're all very different, but all very competent. So have Ford hit the right note with the new Fiesta? Well, it's more a revamp than anything else in response to the likes of the new Clio and the new Fiat Punto. The Fiesta has always been a very entertaining car to drive, and still is. It's probably the best of the bunch for that, despite having any real potent engines in the range apart from the new 1.6 Zetec S. I think you'll either love or hate the new Fiesta. I personally like it. Or you'll take so long to make up your mind over whether you like the car that you'll buy something completely different.
So what's so important about the tread of a car tyre? An awful lot is the answer, and can determine how you stick to the road, how much water you displace, and what sort of performance the driver can enjoy. Well, this is the distinctive tread of Goodyear's latest release, the Ventura, which I've test driven this week. Being a directional tyre, you have to put them on the correct way round, and reversing with directional tyres gives you the weird feeling that you're reversing over a little speed hump, because they're designed to grip and to displace water going forwards. Replacing Goodyear's Eagle NCT2 performance tyre, the Ventura is set to continue the innovation that the Aquatread and EMT gave us. Goodyear's engineers stretched the development process well beyond the usual boundaries whilst working on the Ventura, and the team conceived new tools such as fluid dynamics modelling. This led to several tyre technology breakthroughs under the banner of V-Tread technology. This technology, along with using a revolutionary silica-based tread compound, assures a good stiffness distribution in the tread without sacrificing any aquaplaning resistance. And I found the Ventura to provide excellent handling characteristics with promised long tread life as well. Now that tread, specially shaped ducts in the tread pattern, they increase water dispersion like the Aquatread does, providing unprecedented resistance to aquaplaning, and noise levels are also reduced from the outgoing NCT2 tyre. The Ventura, like many other tyres these days, have been designed with safety in mind as well. It has a stopping distance we're promised 8% less than its predecessor. I've worked out at a speed of 30 miles an hour, that means on an average family car that's about 7 feet. Well, it's available in 31 sizes, in V and H speed ratings. Try them out, you might like them.
Coming up after the break, Ken Gibson and that pocket-sized city car. And Ginny Buckley with the Nissan Almera.
Small is beautiful in the car world at the moment, and it's big, big business. But things are about to get an awful lot smaller. Let me introduce you to the microcar. Now this little beauty is precisely 8 foot long, 4 foot wide, and that's precisely 2 feet shorter than the Mini, the original Mini car. And it gets a Diddy engine to match all 500 cc's of it. Linda Oakes, a housewife from Birmingham. What do you think of the microcar then?
It's not too bad. I think once you get used to the shape, then it'd be okay. It'd be quite practical, I would think, around town. I mean, I don't drive very much, just where I have to the shops, to nursery. That would suit me.
Those very strange people in France actually love the microcar. They buy 33,000 of them a year, would you believe? The man who's hoping to bring it over here is a guy called Jonathan Haynes. He was the guy that saved Reliant cars. So who does he think is going to buy the microcar? Mixture of people. Reliant Robin owners, he says, he thinks will go for it. Motorcyclists and people in remote rural areas who just simply want A to B transport and for whom speed is an irrelevance. Colin Toney, as a Reliant owner, what do you make of the new microcar?
I think it's very attractive. I think it's very nice indeed, inside and outside. Extremely smart.
And quality-wise, do you think the finish is good?
I think the finish is very good.
What sort of price range would you think this car would fit into then?
7,500.
Price is crucial in the UK at the moment, no more so than in the highly competitive Super Mini sector. Microcar are going for 5,995 for the basic model, Now this all singing and dancing top of the range job is just under 8,000, and that's Ford Fiesta territory. But most importantly, what does it drive like? First thing you notice when you get inside the microcar is the sound of the engine. It sort of whirs into life like a sort of turbocharged sewing machine. Fast it is not. 0 to 60, forget about that. It has a top speed of just over 60, but that's with a big downhill behind you. However, in fairness, it's pretty reasonable around town, keeps up with city traffic fine. Gear changes, simplicity itself. One forward, one reverse, with an automatic gearbox. Perfect for driving around town. Steering is reasonable, it feels fairly positive, it's quite light. Perfect for parking, of course, you can park it on a postage stamp. The interior is okay in a very plasticky type of way. It's quite a well laid out dash, it's quite neat, but it sort of feels very plasticky, and with the fiberglass exterior, you get the feeling that if a large gust of wind came along, you'd be quickly blown off course. As we've just found out, you feel absolutely every bump in it. I don't know how it would cope in rough rural surfaces, but the smoother the surface, the better it is. Room-wise, for two people, it's not too bad height-wise, length-wise. It's very narrow, so if you've got a bit of a weight problem, this is not the car for you. The boot is reasonable. You can get a good-sized sports bag, and you can get all the weekly shopping in there. I'd like to say the driving experience was fun, a bit like a Mini, but it's not. It's not fun at all. It's totally functional. This is for people going from A to B who don't care about speed. Not too much street cred then with the young people, David. What do you think?
Not really. It looks more like a box than actually a car itself.
But what would you think about it for 500cc engine? It's something that you can get with a motorbike license. Would you not rather drive this than a motorbike? James?
Well, I'd rather drive a moped, really.
You'd rather drive a moped? That low down. Definitely not a hit with you guys then.
Not really, no.
So is microcar the mini sensation of the future? It's wonderfully economical. You can park it on a postage stamp, and it doesn't look bad in a sort of toy town type of way. But I just can't see Micromania catching on in the UK. Not at these prices.
It's something that's very easily done. It's just a little white lie, no big deal, and we've all done it. Somebody asks you what you drive and you just say, a GTI. You lead them to believe that it's a VW, a Peugeot or some other hot hatch. Why? Because you know they're trying to weigh you up, and they may not have quite the same opinion if they discover it's a Nissan Almera GTI. The Almera GTI was launched at the Geneva Motor Show in March '98 and has since been refreshed with some interior and exterior styling enhancements. The Nissan is designed to appeal to the young, adventurous driver, so it's built to compete with the market leaders, cars like VW's Golf GTI and the Peugeot 306 XSI. Still, we shouldn't be too hard on the Nissan because it is a very tidy little car, and you shouldn't be embarrassed if you choose to drive one. Just don't expect people to want a second look at it. Even with its deep integrated bumpers, the rally-inspired skirts on the side and the sporty spoiler at the rear, I don't think anybody will take your handbrake turns seriously. Still, it is supposed to be a sporty car, and who am I to argue with the designers? I just can't imagine you getting white-knuckle ride performance out of it. Still, I'm prepared to give it a chance. Well, I've got to admit that straight away you slip into these contoured sporting seats that also have lumbar and pelvic support, which isn't bad at all. And there does seem to be plenty of room here in the cabin, but I'm afraid that that's down to the rather long and unsporting nature of its design. As for the interior trim, well, I'm not too keen. Far too much black, as usual in cars like this. But there is a generous amount of storage space, plenty of little cubby holes for you to keep all your junk in. The other stuff, such as this 4-spoke steering wheel, driver's airbag, electric door mirrors and electric front window, is pretty much what you get in most types of GTI. But you do get a few nice extras as standard. White instrument dials, air conditioning, electric sunroof and a 6-speaker CD player. And that's pretty good going. And speaking of going some, it must be said that the Almera can go some too, if you wanted to. This is the 2-litre 4-cylinder 16-valve engine. It produces 143 brake horsepower and has a top speed of 131 miles per hour. 0 to 60 will take you just over 6 seconds, which means that it keeps up very nicely with the Golf GTIs and the Peugeots of this world. The handling, though, is one area for concern. At low speeds, it corners as if it's on rails, but then again, I can't think of many cars that don't at low speeds. And remember, this is a GTI. We should be expecting performance and superb handling. The problem is, once you get up to high speed, you really feel as if you could be driving on gravel, not the good old tarmac. It makes the Nissan definitely a candidate for traction control. Behind the wheel, this isn't a bad ride at all. In fact, around town, it feels very agile. It's great for nipping in and out of traffic. And that's all down to the multi-link beam rear suspension, which improves the car's handling balance. Nissan are very hot on safety, and the GTI features a 4-track anti-lock brake system as standard, which monitors each wheel individually, applies the brakes when it's needed. It's supposed to work as soon as the car gets above 6 miles per hour. Now, I don't know about all that, but I reckon the brakes work just fine. You can get yourself one of these for £16,600 on the road, which is cheaper than both the Golf and the Peugeot. However, a Golf GTI, this ain't. So if you want a bit more from your hot hatch, then I'm afraid you're going to have to look elsewhere. But if you want a sporty little hatchback that's crammed full of extras at a very reasonable price, then you're going to have to face up to the fact that you could possibly drive a Nissan. But never mind, you can always just tell people that you drive a GTI. Who's to know?
Coming up on next week's show, Ginny Buckley feels the power in BMW's M5. Chris Goffey tests Rover's new mid-size saloon, the 45, at its launch. All that next week on Motor Week.